Welcome, brothers. I'm your host, Octavius, also known as the Urban Thinker. We got a good brother today. He's a youth advocate, Morehouse College student, and also a future teacher. Hey, brother, if you can introduce yourself, please do.
All right, what's going on, brothers? My name is Horace Ryans III. I'm a sophomore education sociology major at Morehouse College. I'm Philly born and raised. I was raised in Northeast. I live now in Southwest whenever I come home. I am a youth advocate. I am a future educator. A lot of my work is centered around education advocacy and making sure that our schools and our systems are in place that are actually benefiting Black children. Something that Octavius doesn't know is that I'm applying to a PhD pipeline program at the end of the month.
Okay.
So on the 31st, I submit my application. Prayerfully, when I'm accepted, I'll be on my way to becoming Dr. Ryan. So that'll be pretty cool. But I'm doing that work right now. So and that work is centered around the same thing, making sure that our classrooms and systems and teachers are all serving Black kids in the best way possible.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you for telling me that. So we're just going to kick it off, brother. What is one thing you love about being a Black man?
The one thing I love about being a Black man is it's the fact that I'll lead off with a little bit of an anecdote. I was raised in such an environment that highlighted so many other cultures and so many other different types of living. But the detriment to that was that they never highlighted my Black self, my Black life, right? And, even though, I was exposed to so much, I was never exposed to Blackness and what I'm living now at Morehouse and with all my new Black friends, right? The thing I love about being a Black man, is that even in the midst of, growing up, being 20 years old now, I still have space to discover what this Black existence, what this Black male existence can look like for me. And there's never been a point in this journey where I felt as if, this was the end of the line for my culture. This was the end of the line for my identity as a Black man. It is a non-monolithic, form of identity that is shaped however I shape it. And I cherish it. And there's nobody telling me, and there's nobody that can tell me, this is what you should be doing. This is what a Black man should be. Because we've since kind of gotten past that idea of constructing these gender norms in a way that limits the existence of another Black man. We try not to do that anymore. So what I love about being a Black man is that it's a continuum. It's no longer a model. It's a continuum of existence that I get to define for myself. Yeah,
I like that. Now, one thing I would add is that I like that we're a mystery. Whenever we walk into a room, no one knows what we're bringing to the table. No one knows what we're going to say or what we're going to do. And that's the best part, because you get to be yourself. And when you're yourself,
absolutely.
That's the best part of being a Black man for me. Because as soon as you step into that room, they can ask so many questions. They can make so many labels. They can create so many stories about you before you step into the room, with how you dress,
right,
with how you speak, with how you even answer certain questions. That's why I say being a mystery is a gift, not a curse.
Right.
It's a gift for a lot of people. So through the years of being a Black man, I know you said you're 20. I don't know if you're old enough to know In the Basement with Big Tigger. You don't? Okay, so Big Tigger was it was like the Breakfast Club, but it was for rappers to come into the basement and do a session. So this form of it is going to be, we're going in the den with Horace Ryans. And then the den is also means discovery, exploration, and navigation for Black men. So the question I have for you is, at what moment did you discover you were a Black man?
Good question. So I went. It was either my freshman or my sophomore year of high school. And the weird kind of interplay of it was, prior to this experience, my father had, brought up this weird text called The Stages of Negrescence. I don't know who wrote it, but he mentioned it before. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm going to leave it at that. No further exploration. I had 4 white friends when I was in high school. I hung around white people a lot. Not sure why. I think I was most comfortable around them, for reasons that I'm sure were a little bit prejudiced toward my own race, which I'm not going to unpack that right now. Um, and we were sitting in we were having a conversation about gentrification, and I was, sharing with them the experiences of Black people, in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Like, and how, even we see it now, white people are coming in and pushing Black families out. And this was before any of my scholarly brain was so, invested in this idea of like whiteness being dangerous, because that's just not what I was taught, right? And so we were having this conversation. I was explaining to them, like, this is what white people and affluent people have done to systematically oppress Black families. Like, this is like they're pushing Black families out, right? And these four white guys, one of which explained his rationale for why gentrification wasn't horrible and it wasn't white people's fault. He says, "My family owns the apartment building in so and so. I can't live there because the rent is too high." And in my head, I'm like, and again, my scholarly brain wasn't completely activated. I couldn't cite sources. I couldn't do anything like I can now.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, I was like, why doesn't that make sense? Why doesn't that make sense to me? And the other guys were like, yeah, no, he's right. Like, this is definitely gentrification affects white people too, right? Keep in mind that this one guy lives in I'm going to say like $500,000 house. The other guy lives in a rich part of South Philly. There's no crime in their neighborhood. Crime is 20 blocks that way down in North, right? So I came into my Blackness when I realized that these 4 white men would never, ever understand the experiences of me or my people, nor would they ever have to experience it. They might find something similar. They might experience something different, but they would never understand me. And through a completely racialized lens, I was trying to help them understand, like, hey, your people are still actively oppressing my people. It wasn't clicking for them. And so I remember going home that day and just telling my dad, like, I get it. I'm starting to get it. And of course, there was some more like racial detangling of the wires in my brain to kind of come into my Blackness that I am now, and I'm still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But that I can cite that as one of the core memories of when I realized, like, oh, okay, I'm Black. Like, okay, yeah, that's it.
Okay. I'm glad you shared that, because that's hard to hear. And then it's also the courage that you had to sit there and be able to say, look, I understand now.
Yeah.
For,
I lost my best friend in that moment. Like, my best friend who, like, since kindergarten, we were like this.
mm-hmm.
And we went to the same high school together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a day where I was like, yeah, you're not my dog. Like, across racial lines, we will never see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
We just won't. So
I think for me, when I discovered it was when I turned 18. And I was at Roman Catholic High School, my alma mater. I was on the basketball team, and they knew it was my birthday. And one of the teammates came out, and they said, "Hey, you hit 18." I was like, "What?" They were like, "You hit 18. Not a lot of us do that. Congratulations." And like that hit me. And my mom was standing right next to me, and I looked at my mom. I was like, "Okay, I understand now." Because like to hear it from another young Black man too, that's 18, and that's hard to hear.
that's hard.
And that just for him to say that's an accomplishment, I said to myself, you know what, I got to figure out another accomplishment for me to do so that's not stuck on me.
Right.
So I know you talked about a lot of feelings. You said you lost your one of your best friends. You said a lot of feeling words. So the next question I got for you is, how do you explore your feelings as a Black man?
That's a wonderful question, because I still struggle with that every single day. So I explore my feelings through journaling and through meditation, and those are the two things I found comfort in, because talking about my feelings, I still struggle with it, because it's a level of trust that goes into me sharing my stuff. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of meditation and journaling, I've adopted these two new techniques. Meditation in these like solitude moments, and I'm still practicing because it's really hard. I just sit with myself and I let myself feel whatever I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
This is brand new because I was not able to do this for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Just to sit with whatever I'm feeling and allow myself to feel and remove the blockage from all that. And there's a cool quote from this book called The Daily Stoic, or something. Yeah, I think it's The Daily Stoic, where this Roman or Greek emperor Marcus Aurelius is basically like he wrote the Meditations, which is a really cool text of like Stoic teachings, and he essentially wrote this text not because he wanted to perform for anybody, but because he was trying to do it for himself,
Mm-hmm.
and it just so happened to be published. The quote is essentially that, like, he didn't do it for him. He didn't do it for other people. He did it for him. So taking that same idea, meditating and reflecting and talking about my feelings, not to perform, using the language that I want to use to make sure that I feel okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing I do. And then second, I started journaling. I had this 2021, it's somewhere over here. I think it's this. I had this 2021 journal that I started back in, I want to say, actually, I can look at the first date, maybe August.
Okay.
And this is actually the journal that I had when you and I used to meet frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Back in City Hall.
Yeah.
Those were the times when I was younger and stupid. So this journal served me all throughout 2021, and I filled every page. And on the very last day of 2021, I gave it up, and I got a new journal. But I realized that took up a lot of time. So what I started doing now, and I found great success, I started video journaling. So I prop up my iPad and I will just talk for as long as I need to talk. And occasionally I'll go rewatch it because you wanna reflect on what you were feeling yesterday or a week before, just to figure all that out. So yeah, those two things are what I found a lot of success in terms of processing everything that I'm feeling.
Okay. I appreciate you that you're still journaling, because I know that's one thing that we talked about. I really do appreciate the now video journaling, because that's different. Because now you get to see your progress. Because writing is a thing. We all know that you can write, you can erase it, you can scratch it out. But when you do a video, it's a little different when you can see yourself from then until now. So I would just say continue to do that. Because right now, what I see right now is a different Horace from before. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. And I really do appreciate you for saying that out loud.
Thank you.
So now with this one, it's called Navigation as a Black Man. Who did you learn from, or how did you navigate society as a Black man? Because I know you're the third, so you got two people in front of you.
Yeah. So I learned from I had a lot of great mentors, you included, in my life. I want to say that, in terms, and I'll speak directly about you. If it wasn't for you, I probably would have had a very, very rough time in high school. Tamir was there, and he'll always be my older brother. But I didn't really have anybody else. My dad, as much as I love him to death, that's my dad's my best friend. I love that guy. When my parents got divorced or separated in my freshman or sophomore year, I didn't really have a male figure in my life to really guide me. And it's not like I didn't have mentors. It's just that I didn't feel connected to them because, they were there when I was younger and, early or late elementary, and then veered off in high school, right? So when you came into my life, I was, one, caught off guard because when I first met you, you were just like, you were very, very stoked. You're very like, your humor is dry. Your face is, whenever you make a joke, you have like, you don't make a face. So I'm like, I don't know if you're joking or not, but I'm gonna laugh because I thought it was funny. But like, yeah, then you smile and it's like, oh, he's a pretty cool guy. So it's like, that type of connection, because that's how I am. If I'm not expressing, I keep a very straight face and I'm very sarcastic, and I do it for fun. I do the same thing, right? So to have somebody in my life that, was a black man in my life, rather, who was emotional, who could express how he was feeling, who allowed me to express how I was feeling, who held space for me, who was adamant on checking in on me, who, I felt like cared. That was really important. Because without that, I don't think I would be journaling. I think I would have all these emotions and I really wouldn't know what to do with them. And it would suck. It would suck. And, tying on to that, another black male that has kind of got me through this is my new mentor. His name's Burrell. He obviously has a full name. I call him Burrell. We met over the summer, and I don't know what it is about. Actually, I do know what it is about him. He is probably one of the kindest men I've ever met. He's kind. He is emotional. He's able to express what he is feeling. He's able to hold space for me on times where I was at my lowest. He held that space and he welcomed me into his arms as if he were my older brother, right? And I never had any. I am the oldest brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have two little brothers, right, and like four sisters. I'm the oldest. Granted, I am a triplet, so I'm oldest by like 2 minutes, but that's
You're still the oldest.
I'm still the oldest, right? And so to have men like you who call themselves my older brother, not just a father figure, but an older brother, right? It means a lot to me. Because without you guys, like I definitely would be out here, letting my anger get the best of me, letting the hatred that would seep in with the anger get the best of me. And I would not know how to navigate this environment because especially at Morehouse, right? Like, without the lessons that you taught me about handling my own emotions and about interacting with women while I'm still dealing with me on the inside, and Burrell did the same thing, I would not be in the place that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? Like I would not be able to go out into this world and do what I do if I had so much of this pent up emotion inside of me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. The second question was, I forget the second question.
How did you navigate as a black man?
How did I navigate? Very carefully. Very carefully. What I believe is happening right now is, in this age of social media, especially in my generation, black men have a huge target on their back because I believe you have two dichotomies. You have, on one hand, we're being targeted and hunted down by every single critic of what we do. On the other hand, you have the yearning and the wanting to nurture what black man can be. But the reason why it doesn't always work that way is because these two sides present two distinct types of stereotypes and they both feed into each other, where we want to nurture black men and we want to take care of black men. But at the same time, the critics are like, yeah, if you nurture them, they're going to come back and bite you. So
that's true.
Because of this dichotomy of figuring out, like, well, how do we navigate this space? We as black men have to like really tread very lightly in everything that we do. For example, one of my best friends I'm not actually, let me not give her too much information. One of my best friends who is a woman, she has experienced so much trauma with men, and every single day I'm like, am I allowed to curse on here? I'm not? Okay, I won't. Every single day she faces trauma with these men, and I'm like, why are they like this, right? And so I have to like navigate this really tight circle with her because I'm like, I don't know what I can say. Like, not that I'm going to intentionally hurt you, but what can I say that won't, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that won't harm you, right? And it's like that with everybody because I have to really get around all the things that everyone thinks about me already. Like what you said in the beginning, like they already told a story about me before I even walked in the room. What is that story? And are you already applying it to me? I haven't even seen it yet. So I've had to navigate this whole space very, very carefully.
I hear you, I got emotional when you started talking about when you said you were going to bring up me. I was like, oh no, but because I felt it, because you and a lot of young kings that I have in my heart, y'all have a special place right there because I do this stuff for a reason. I don't talk to you for no reason. I talk to you because I'm here to support you. And I'm not gonna give up on y'all. No matter how old y'all get, I could be 60 and y'all could be 50. I'm gonna still be right there talking to you. Like, yo, what's up? How are you? And that's what some people forget. As you get older, you start losing people. You start losing the connections you had. And I'm glad that you brought up your dad and the other men in your life, because for me, I'm putting something together now. I'm obviously going to have them on a podcast at some point, but I'm calling it my Black Mount Rushmore, because these are black men that I've looked up to, and they molded me into the man that you see. So for me, it's my uncle. I got all of my uncles, just to be honest with you. Some are family, some are childhood family friends that I call my uncles that's known me since I was 5. So I look at them as, okay, this is the right and wrong thing to do. Mm-hmm. So now when I get past them, I have to go into the world now with what I know is right and wrong. Now I have to find other black men to connect with. But I can't keep moving forward if I don't turn around and help the ones behind me. Right. Because that's the part that we also forget. We walk into a door and we close it. Right. We don't keep it open. We don't put a wedge at the bottom of it. We don't put a door stop. We just close it, saying, I got through, you get through. Right. And that's one thing that we forget. And I do appreciate you for just sharing, because that's just being honest. Because you can't not stop talking about Burrell, your dad, and the other black men that, supported you. And I understand that. Right. So I do have a question for you. It's called Who You Repping, and rep is representation, expectations, and perception. So the first question is, how do you represent your identity, the different hats that you may wear?
That's a good question. How do I do that? Well, I think one of the things I have been blessed with, coming into this existence, is that I'm very expressive. I'm able to mold into the person that I need to be in that moment. So in terms of how do I become the scholar? How do I represent the scholar that I am? I use the language that I'm using right now. You know what I'm saying? I cite the books I need to cite. I read what I need to read. And I can tell you what I'm talking about, because that's just what I do. Mm-hmm. When I need to be a friend, I change my body language. I'm able to, I'm smart enough to know what I would want in a friend. I can emulate that behavior. In terms of being, a good brother, not just a friend. There are certain actions that need to be taken to be a good brother, right? So being able to, be knowledgeable enough to know when I need to switch, to know when I need to, make the shift in my behavior and my language and my tone and all these other things. So I think that's the answer to your question. I might be getting a little off base, but that's what I think is the answer.
Okay. Now, I know for me, it is about the different hats you wear, and also how you, a lot of people want to say code switch, but it's just how you be yourself. How do you represent who you are when you walk out that door? Because everybody knows you put on a mask at some point. But when you take those masks off, is it Octavius? Is it Horace? Right. Is it brother Octavius? Is it brother Horace? Right. Is it co-worker Octavius? Co-worker Horace? Like, who are you bringing to the table? And with all those hats that you wear, you have expectations. So that's my next question. What expectations do you have for yourself? What expectations do you think others have on you? And how do you or did you overcome societal expectations?
Good question. It's a great question. So before this point, Yeah, like I'll say that before, before I came into college and while I was in college, um, I had this aura of expectation that what had to be perfection, had to be perfection. Everything I did had to be perfect. And that is kind of how I've lived my adolescent life up to this point, right? What I realized, what I realized is that perfection is simply unattainable, and the only one perfect in this existence is God.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so I was holding myself, it was me, no one else was doing this. I was holding myself on such a standard that anything less than
Mm-hmm.
perfection was unacceptable. And I believe this is with like society too. Like that's one of the pieces of societal expectations. And so what was occurring was that I would try so hard. I often struggle with this still. I would try so hard to be perfect that nothing would get done
Mm-hmm.
at all. So all of my dreams, my goals, my friendships, my relationships, every single thing had to be perfect. And when they weren't perfect, that meant they were failing. If they were failing, I had to give up because I'm not going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation now, after like months and a long time of just intense reflection, because that is what is required of us in this
Mm-hmm.
existence as well. That's the piece that we often always miss is the reflection. I'm beginning to understand rather that perfection is unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
It is unattainable. I simply strive every day to give my best. And that's different than being perfect. Now, if my best is
Yeah.
perfection, that's
Yeah.
okay. I can strive for it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm never going to reach it, but I can. If my best is simply perfection, I'm going to do my best. That's what's that? That is the law of contradiction of identity, or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like my best is perfection, I'm going to go do my
Yeah.
best. But if my best that day is the bare minimum, if that is all I can give, which is what I've been doing for the past couple of days because I've been so exhausted for school.
Mm-hmm.
If my best is waking up, taking a shower, making my bed, getting dressed, and going to class, that's my best.
Okay.
Right. And so that is what I've learned just over the course of like maybe a year and a half. So it's new knowledge. So that's how I kind of overcame that for myself. Now the expectations of others, I've had to battle with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like if my perception of me is to be my best, then the only thing that I think other people are thinking is that, oh, he is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to live up to this idea of perfection. So when I shifted my mindset toward just trying my best and giving my all and doing all that I can, that's when I started to realize that I don't owe anybody in this world my perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's also interesting is that in this understanding is that people don't care about what you do outside of how you can serve them.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a horrible bad way, but not in a not so good way
Yeah.
either. But unless you're, walking outside and punching people in the face, nobody really cares what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to understand that too. So my perceived expectations that everyone had for me, they like unless we have a close relationship, it's like I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that if I give my best, then you will simply expect whatever I can give you, and that I made my peace with that because I was definitely living up to everyone else's expectations because the idea of perfection was so ingrained in my mind. I was like, oh, everybody else must expect that from me too.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking a macro look at society's expectations of me as a black
Mm-hmm.
man, they're first of all completely arbitrary. They are defined arbitrarily and constructed on a whole racial dynamic that is beyond my control.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do know is that they expect me to fail. Society as a whole expects me to fail. Society as a whole expects me and my people to give up and to play into this role that is predetermined for us because that's just how and what they want, right? And so how do you beat that? How do you beat that? You kind of struggle. You have to struggle. You have to put up a fight. But what I've understood in my short 20 years of life is that you just do you.
Yeah.
Like you have to do you because, statistically, past fourth grade, if I didn't perform slightly above average on my fourth grade PSSA, and if I didn't go to a charter school that was well funded in on 16th and Lombard, and really a good part of Philadelphia, they would have created a prison cell for me right down the block on 10th and 15th and something at the little jail on the corner, right? They would have had this room reserved for me at a jailhouse because that fourth grade reading level was determining whether I would end up in prison or not, right? If I didn't go to such a great school, if I didn't, make a name for myself while I was in high school, I would not be at Morehouse. I would not be doing everything that I'm doing. But I was doing me. I was doing me, and I had the opportunity to do so. So I was able to, I'm not going to get too sociology here because that's a whole thing. I had the opportunity and I had the right circumstances. I won the parent lottery, the zip code lottery, the education lottery. I had the circumstances to do me. I had the opportunity to do whatever I needed to do to get ahead.
Yeah.
And not a lot of our brothers had an opportunity, which is the detrimental part, but I did me, and that's how I overcame societal expectations as well.
Okay. I love that. I do, because when you said parent lottery, I would top that over everything, because I have the best mom in the world. I know a lot of people can say that for their moms, and I know you've met my mother. She informed me at a young age. She said, "Don't give someone the ammunition to make you seem less than who you are." And I ran with that. When I stepped into a room, I represented myself, my mother, my family. I said, I don't represent nobody else. So when she said that to me, I just, like I said, I took it and ran with it. And I never gave somebody the ammunition, because if I give you the ammunition and I step outside myself, now you have the power to control me. You have the power to control whatever is happening right now. And I can't give you that. So I understand what you're saying when you said you won the family lottery, because I did as well. And I hear you on that one. I'm gonna say that to my mom later, that I won the family lottery.
Right.
So just based off of everything you just said, how would you like people to perceive yourself and other Black males?
Although I would love to say that I would love for them to receive us in such a positive way and a non-discriminatory and non-assumption based, stereotype based, reality. That's kind of unrealistic, unfortunately. But what I will say is that I pray that people receive me and my brothers as humans before anything. Because I know that we all are on this planet off of pure luck, right? God ain't had to put us here, but he did. He ain't had to keep us here for this long, but he did.
Yep.
And through that basic understanding that I feel like we have the will to accept people as humans first. We just don't, because of everything that's happening in society, right? So I would hope that they take us as we are, not as assumed criminals or assumed problems or assumed discrepancies and so and whatever, right? I would hope that they meet us in a place that is, I recognize your humanity, and I recognize that there has been wrong done to people that look exactly like you. I'm sorry. Here's a piece of humanity, because I don't believe that Black men in particular are treated with a level of humanity that is deserved.
Mm-hmm.
That is deserved because you are human. And I think, we live. The really interesting thing about it is that I'm trying to stay away from the other divide, which is skin color.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I'm sorry, skin
Mm-hmm.
tone within
Yeah.
blackness. Like me as a light skinned black man and you as a darker skinned
Mm-hmm.
black man, we have two different
Yep.
realities. Because I am aware that I walk into a building, they will not target me more than they will target. Well, they will target you more than they target me because I'm light skinned and you are not.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the really crazy part, because even within this divide of race and class, we have, even in our own community, like light skin and dark skin, and how that relates to whiteness and blackness,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why I go with the humanity piece first, even though it's kind of is unrealistic. But I would hope that we can approach each other in a way, a humane and respectful way that agrees with morals and ethics as beings and not just race.
I hear you on that one, because I love that you said human first, because the way I look at like my educational journey, middle school, elementary school, a lot of people say you don't see color, we just see friends. And as you get to high school, you start to see color.
Mm-hmm.
College, the same thing. Grad school and so on, it's the same thing. But elementary and middle school, you're not really worrying about anything. You're just having fun with whoever you need to have fun with.
Right.
And everybody else sees you as your first name. Octavius, Horace.
Right.
They don't see you with your skin color. They see you until your skin color as you get older. And that's the thing that people may not understand. That transition from middle school, elementary school to high school may be very different for myself and somebody else who I may have called my friend. And if we go to the same high school, who knows? It may still be different. So I'm glad that you said, look at us as being human, because we're not. Because when we're not seen as human, what are we seen as? That's the main question, because if we want to paint a painting of ourselves, what would it look like, versus if they paint a painting of us, what would it look like?
It is much easier. And to your point about not being human,
Mm-hmm.
it is much easier to oppress an animal.
Mm-hmm.
It is much easier to oppress a thing, an object, whether it is whether than to oppress another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what my like school work has taught me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've learned. It's like, it's the reason why they were doing what they're doing, because they didn't see us as people. They saw us as objects, as property, as animals, as so.
I feel you. So the name of this podcast is called The Middle Brother. And with The Middle Brother, I've seen that there's been like tension between us as black males, from our OGs and young kings, and it's a thing. And for this segment of the podcast, I just want to give some advice. I want you to give some advice to the older generation about you as the next generation coming up. And just what advice, either 3 pieces of advice or just one advice that you would give them to just say, hey, we're coming up. We hear y'all, but there are some things that, that we need to address.
Okay. So it's exactly what you just said. Like, we hear y'all, but there are some things that need to be brought up in terms of what's next, right? So I'll give a really direct example in terms of this time period where we're kind of entering like a new civil rights movement, because everything is so broadcasted everywhere, right? So we have this idea that Black Lives Matter, that whole movement will become like what MLK did, what Thurgood Marshall did. And some of us, I'll say the old heads, think like, you know what, this will be it. Like, if we do this, that will help. We over here, like, respectfully, it can, it's not. Because what I know, just based off of my own work, is that there's a difference between mobilizing and coming together and mobilization, right? Actually, let me switch those teams because the young folks are saying it won't work. The old heads are saying it will, right? And so here's the part that in the middle that needs to happen. What's happening is these young people are simply using social media as a means to broadcast and no action. These older folk who are actually, I believe, are right. They're saying we need to mobilize and we need to get somewhere and do something. That's what actually makes change. The middle part is one group is too stubborn to move. The other group is pushing too hard. The middle ground is figuring out how these two forces can actually use each other as resources, because there's nothing these young people have not said that these old folk have not already experienced. But I guess my advice would be to take it slow. Not even take it slow. Both sides have to be mindful of the value of having history and contemporary voices, historical and contemporary voices on both sides coming together, right? And just to be mindful, to be aware, and to be privy to everything that's coming at you at once. Because if not, what's going to happen is that we young people are going to have a repeat of the performative policy work, the performative activism that went on maybe, at the end of the civil rights movement, when they were literally just saying, hey, you can have this, this, and this, but not this, right? And, we kind of see that in Brown versus Board of Education, right? We got desegregated schools. We got integration, right? That was just performative policy work, right? No one really wanted that. The white people didn't really want that. Some black people didn't even want that. But it was the policy that was put in place that was but you can do it. You can. And these old folk already know that. They seen it. They seen this stuff not work. We young people have not seen it work because we're still living it. So we both have to be mindful of the voices that are coming into play here. So I guess being mindful of all the voices is my piece of advice.
Okay. I'm glad that you said that, because being mindful of both sides and understanding both sides, that's hard to do, because like you said, you have the older folks that have lived it already, and you have some younger folks that are going through it, and you have some of the older folks, I call them OGs, that are trying to tell them hey, we've been through this already. We might be coming full circle again. And you got the young folks saying, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Because they didn't read anything yet. They didn't do their history yet. They're just upset. And we all can understand why they're upset.
and what is interesting is that the younger people who actually read the stuff, who actually do the research, agree. Yeah. But they're just not saying that they agree. If you read, my shelf over there has Malcolm X, Asai Shakur, MLK, James Baldwin, all the scholars, and they are saying everything that these guys are saying over here. But they're the young people want to take the idea and just basically say this was our idea first. No, it's over here in the books. We have the solutions. We have the solutions right over here. You just have to read. You have to read it and do it. But I because of social media and lack of attention, they're not going to read it and do it. But that's besides.
All I say is, they did all the marching. They did all the screaming and yelling. They did that so we wouldn't have to do it. They did a lot of stuff for us that we shouldn't have to do right now. And when I say we, I mean everybody that's underneath whatever age you can say, because it's not that far removed. So you got to ask the question of, so what do we do now? We got a lot of young folks becoming and going in the office. We got a lot of young folks in certain spaces, but we also got a lot of OGs in certain spaces too that's in the same room. But they're doing this. They keep butting heads because you have an old way of doing stuff, and then you got a new way of doing stuff, and they're not trying to come together and say, well, how can we do this together? And that's the main reason why this podcast even started. Because it's I'm 28, you're 20. I can understand what you're going through because I lived it. But then there's also an older brother that's been through it twice already. because he was my age and he was your age. So it's like, if we don't talk to each other, how can we get through this together? Right. And that leads into my next question. Based on what you've seen and experienced, what's one thing Black males can do to grow together?
Oh, man. I say remove the competition. Remove the idea of competition. I'll say that even at my beloved institution, Morehouse College, there is this air of expectancy, and this comes from Benjamin Elijah Mays. So there's an air of expectancy at Morehouse College that basically tells these young men, like, you have to do it, you have to do it, you have to get ahead. But there's also this level of competition that snuffs out anyone that is unwilling to partake in it. Snuffs out anyone that's unwilling to kind of step out of themselves and act a fool. Like, if you're going to do that, you're going to get pinned and you're going to get excluded. Because we at Morehouse, we recognize that there are 1,250 approximately, that number of young men who are trying to make a name for themselves. Any one of us that is like going to put somebody else down because you want to get ahead, like, we didn't come here for that. We could have gone anywhere in the US for that. Anywhere in the country for that. We don't come here and do that. And so the idea of moving the competition, although it does push us, like healthy brotherly competition, like, oh, bro, you already read that book? Damn, I read two more. I read two more just now. Oh, you read two more? I read four. That's friendly. That's brotherly competition. We're trying to get the one up on each other, but we're not trying to, hey, bro, like, there's this internship, but I'm gonna make sure that you don't get it because I need that spot. And although that does still happen, you know what I'm saying? But let us get a wind of it, bro. Like, you're weird. Like, don't do that. You're weird. So removing that competition, because although yes, there is a healthy dose of it, there's also like a kind of a trauma response for it. Because I think as Black men, we are conditioned to think that the whole world is, well, because the whole world is out to get us, but we're conditioned to think the whole world is out to get us, and so we have to survive. We have to survive the next attack so that we can get to the next piece, right? And there's a beautiful book written by Bettina L. Love, and it's called "We Want to Do More Than Survive." And I'll take a piece from it now. She essentially is saying that Black folk in general, because of everything that has happened, are just surviving. I argue that Black men are simply surviving because that's what we were taught to do. Because if we don't survive, we will be picked off and excluded from the group, and we will be looked at as lesser by our peers, and we'll be looked at as lesser by Black men, Black women, our fathers, our mothers, because we weren't able to keep up. And that's our biggest fear, not only as Black men, but as humans. We don't want to be left out. So to not be left out, we have to be in the front, and we have to leave somebody else behind. But that just creates a cycle of just brothers just trying to bring each other down. You know what I'm saying? So getting rid of that competition, that thought of competition, is extremely important, because with it, we are putting each other behind. But without it, we probably would be stagnant and have no other direction to go in.
That was good. That was so good. Like, I'm not a person to be speechless, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Before we end, I do want to elevate you and your work. So right now, what plans do you have for throughout of 2022?
Actually, let me get my journal, because I have a bunch of them. So yeah, on the 31st, I will be applying to the Mellon Mays Foundation. That will start me on my PhD journey. Just to claim that right now, I will be starting my PhD journey on the 31st of January. I will be studying everything that we've really been talking about, like the relationship. My general topic is the relationship of Black people like Black people in school. So Black students and staff, and how does that help Black students,
Okay.
right? I'm not going to go too much in detail. It's a whole thing, but claiming that. I'm going to buy, my photography business is going to blow up. I'm really excited to get back on campus, really excited to be back in Atlanta to hop on some opportunities. Really excited about that. I have been doing a lot of, self work and growth work so that I can be a better man just every day. So with all the books that I read, with all the, people that I talk to, with all the meditation that I do, I claim that I will be a better man every single day. I claim that, let's see, I can't say that on camera. I claim that my finances will bloom at the beginning of my 20s, that I will remain financially smart and financially not independent, but as I continue to grow into that new stage of life, that I set myself up financially so that whenever I do need to, buy that house, buy that car, take care of my friends, take care of my family, I am able to do so and not feel like I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. And I pray that in 2022 that I level up as I've been doing every single year, that I'm granted another life on this planet in its existence, that I level up in every single aspect of my life that I have not already mentioned. That's what I would say.
Okay. So how can people reach out to you? Social media, anywhere else? How can people reach out? Your business?
Yeah, so you can follow me on my Instagram at h.ryans.iii, or you can just type in Horace Ryans the third in Instagram. I'm also a photographer, Atlanta and Philadelphia based. You can follow me at hr3.jpg. I like to think I'm a pretty great photographer.
He is.
I will let my work speak for itself. And if you have any portrait sessions, headshots, conceptual photography, I would love to be your photographer. Hopefully, prayerfully, when this application goes through for this PhD fellowship, if any of you are principals or schools, I would love to interview you for this research. I really want to make an actual difference in the way that we teach our kids and the way that we interact with Black kids in schools. So if you are interested, please feel free to reach out. I believe, I'm pretty sure that's it. Oh, and LinkedIn, Horace Ryans the third on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, brother, I appreciate you for jumping on. I want to thank you for being the first guest on this podcast. And I appreciate whoever's listening on all platforms. Thank you for listening to this good brother. I do want to say I want y'all to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Urban Thinker Media. And see y'all next time with another dope brother here on the Middle Brother Podcast. Peace.